Hey folks, if you're going to be in the Bordentown, New Jersey area this coming Saturday, August 20th, come see me and Bill Corvino playing down at Randy Now's Man Cave at 8 p.m. Come support live, local, and original music. All right, let's do the show.
Came from the sky, landed in a field, baby, next to I-35.
All right, what's going on, folks? Hope you're doing well. I'm hanging tough over here. All right, now today's show is a kind of a mildly self-indulgent one. Basically, I went to Brooklyn to see a man about a guitar, and this is sort of just my random thoughts while driving there. So hopefully it doesn't bore you to tears or make you want to jump off a building. But it was kind of cathartic for me and kind of fun. So hopefully you'll find some of the stories interesting and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's take a little car ride. Alright folks, we're in the car and we are headed to see a man in Brooklyn about a white falcon. Now being a left-handed guitar player, and I use that term loosely, it's hard to find really decent instruments. I mean, it's getting better than it used to be. You used to have to order and wait. But it's fairly difficult to find decent left-handed guitars. And it's really difficult to find them and then get to play them before you purchase. You normally have to purchase them online and then get them and then decide whether you like it or not, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But so I found this guy in Brooklyn who runs this little shop called Street Sounds NYC, and basically I'm going to go see him. He's got the model White Falcon that I'm looking for. And I'm going to go see if I can't trade some stuff and get this guitar that I've been thinking about. So that's my plan. Now I'm leaving from Hamilton, New Jersey, which is right next to Trenton, where I was born. Trenton's kind of like a rundown city at the moment. It used to be a pretty nice one back in the day. I'm not sure exactly what year that was nice, but it certainly isn't too nice right now. But I was born there, my mom was born there, my brother Mike was born there. My father was born in West Virginia, and his side of the family is from West Virginia, and so is my mom's side of the family. They're from West Virginia. My grandfather on my mom's side, he's from a town called Burgoo, and he grew up there, and then World War II came, and he was stationed in New Jersey for a little bit, where he met my grandmother, and after the war they married and decided to settle in New Jersey, have my mom and her brothers and sisters. And then on my father's side, my dad was again born in West Virginia, and his father and family is from a joint called Williamson, West Virginia. And somewhere along the way, my grandmother, much to her credit, begged my grandfather for them to relocate from West Virginia because there was no prospects down there. So somehow they ended up in New Jersey. And then sometime after my dad's 2 tours in Vietnam, he met my mother in Trenton. So yeah, there's quite a bit of a background with my family in West Virginia and in Trenton, New Jersey. So it's a kind of an interesting little slice of my life. Now I know you can't see it, but right now I'm passing my old high school that I went to, a joint called Steiner. I don't know how I feel about high school, or how I felt about my time in high school. I don't think I had much fun the first 2 years. In fact, I think I was terrorized by older classmen who, for some unknown reason, hated my ass. Anyway, I joined the swim team as a freshman, and did that all 4 years. As far as sports go, I'm pretty miserable. I mean, I was a bad swimmer, but I was terrible at any sports that involved, like a ball, like basketball, football, baseball, all that stuff. I was miserable. Just have no real coordination for that sort of thing.
Well,
I did a bunch of solo acoustic shows, back and forth across the country about a year and a half ago. And I don't know, I'm really comfortable driving by myself long distances, so this little hour trip today isn't very much at all. But again, I do appreciate being in a car by myself and just being out on the road. It's even more exciting today because we're going to see the White Falcon. I've had an interesting history with cars. The first car I ever had, my uncle Jerry gave it to me. It's my mom's brother, and it was sort of like a powder blue Datsun. It was cool. It was, first car, and it was what it was. And then somewhere along the way, I forget whether it died, and I know I was in a car accident with it. It wasn't my fault. Somebody pulled out in front of me, an older guy. So I'm not sure how that ended up going away. But then the next couple of cars were a string of cars that my grandfather would find for me, my mom's dad, and they would all be sort of, you pay cash and they're sitting in somebody's garage or something like that. So for the longest time I drove these clunkers, these beaters, and I may have mentioned this before in another podcast, but for whatever reason all these cars, they all had problems with the radio. Either the radio didn't work or there was no radio in there at all. So part of the way that I started making up songs was that I was just bored driving places by myself, so I'd make up songs. And then over time, the songs would get better. Like every time I got in the car, I would work on that song, just singing it over and over to myself, just to pass the time. And as the songs got better, I thought, well, I'll really try and get somebody to show me a couple of chords on the guitar, and then things moved on from there. But anyway, getting back to the cars, after those string of beater cars, I had one that I drove down to Nashville when I moved there in, I think, October of 2001. And somehow it made it down there, but it had no, I couldn't tell how fast I was going. The speedometer was broke, the gas gauge was broke, so it was exciting. Anyway, it made it to Nashville, and then when I got the deal with Little Dog Records, they said, all right, well, part of your job is you got to get like a passenger van, a 15-passenger van, and get ready to go on the road. So I was super excited and went and sold. I think I actually sold that car that I drove to Nashville in to a friend of mine named Donnie Herron, who was in BR 549, one of the original guys in there, and now I think he's Bob Dylan's steel player now. So, but yeah, he said he drove that car for a bunch of years afterwards. So there you go. But yeah, I bought a 15-passenger van, and then that's the vehicle that I drove out to California with when I was moving out there to tour and work with Pete Anderson. Now, driving around LA in a 15-passenger van was less than glamorous, and at the time I always said that if I ever get the chance to get a different vehicle, I was going to do it right. And so on one of my last days in Los Angeles, before I was about to move back to Nashville and then eventually on to New Zealand, this is probably in September of 2007. So on one of my last days in Los Angeles, I went to a car dealership to see about trading in the van just for something a little bit more safe, because by that point that van had seen so much action, and it was already a death trap to begin with, but it had seen so much action. I mean, we hit a steer on a highway at one point, and that bent the frame all out of whack. And there were a myriad of other issues with it as well. I mean, it literally was a rolling death trap. And I thought, well, if I keep this van, I don't know if I'll make it home. So I thought the better idea was to trade it in. So as I'm on the lot, I see a Jaguar, right? I see this sort of silver blue Jaguar. And I've always thought they were cool, but I never, it was never in the realm of possibility for me. I just would look at them and dig them, but I never thought that I could, own one. So somehow I talked them into it, or they talked me into it, but I traded this big piece of shit, by this point, passenger van for this sleek, almost brand new Jaguar. And that's what I drove to Nashville, Tennessee in from Los Angeles. And then I had that for a couple of months, when I moved to Nashville. I was only in Nashville for about 2 months before I figured out that I probably should get out of the United States altogether and go check out New Zealand, which I did. So the car got to sit in storage for about 6 months after that. So I didn't have it very long. And I remember being in New Zealand, hoofing around, walking everywhere, and I'd see somebody drive by in a Jaguar, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here walking when I have a Jaguar back home? But that's the way it goes. And after the Jaguar, I traded that in for sort of a Jeep vehicle that we did some touring in. And then at one point the Jeep was getting kind of run down, and there was an issue with it that for whatever reason baffled people, and they couldn't fix it. So I traded that in and got a Dodge Challenger, which I'm in right now, and I love this car. It's a lot of fun to drive, and I definitely dig it. I think it's been a great car. Right now I'm headed up the old New Jersey Turnpike. Kind of overcast out, but there isn't too much traffic, and I'm feeling all right.
Man about town, matter what town I'm in. My nights are filled, bright lights and gin.
For future podcasts, I'm trying to line up a couple of people who were on my very first tour with Michelle Shocked when we went from Los Angeles all the way to Texas and back. And while we were out in East Texas, we had a very strange incident happen to us. We had been playing shows, and then Michelle Shocked had a bus that we were all traveling in. So we were traveling in that, and at some point she had got off the bus and flown to the next gig. And we were just traveling through East Texas, and while I think we were trying to make our way to Nashville. Anyway, we're headed out that way, and there's a radio station that we stopped into around 8 p.m. to do a little radio show, and then we were going to hop back on the bus and keep headed our way, out to Nashville. Well, the radio show goes fine. We load up, get on the bus. Now this is a little. There's nothing on this road. There's basically fields on either side, and then somewhere right along the little 2-lane road is this little radio station. It's the only thing on the road. There's nothing else out there for miles. Flat, dark, and there's a little bit of scrub brush here and there, but nothing too much out there. So we get a little, maybe a half a block down the street, and the drummer of my band at the time says, "Oh man, I left something in the studio." So the bus stops. Now it would be a big pain in the ass to turn the bus around on that little 2-lane road to go back. So he's like, no, man, I'll just run back there and grab it. So he gets off the bus and he runs down there, and we're all just sitting around. So about 15 minutes go by as we're sitting there, and the drummer hasn't come back yet. And so Pete told me to go check on this guy. So I get off the bus. I walk, the very short distance to the radio station. Now, it's the only thing, again, on this road. And it's lit up. There's a big tower coming out of it. It's not a very big building, but you can't miss it, So there's like a little trestle bridge, just a little thing over like a little, just a little side road bridge over some water. There's like a little pond or something like that. I go over that. I get right to the radio station. The front door was unlocked, so I didn't have to ring for the disc jockey. So I go in there. I see the item that our drummer had left in there. And I'm thinking, maybe he's in the bathroom, maybe he had to go to the bathroom while he was in there. So I poke my head in, say hey to the DJ. The DJ was kind of mystified as to how I got in there, and I said the front door was unlocked, and he said that was weird because he had locked it, and he was the only one in the building. Anyway, I grab our drummer's gear. I check the bathroom. The disc jockey hadn't seen him, obviously. He wasn't in the bathroom, so I walk back to the bus with the drummer's gear, figuring that maybe the door was locked and he couldn't get in or something. I just figured it was probably just a mix-up. I get back to the bus. Nobody's seen this guy. So then everybody starts to get really worried because we're going on like 25 minutes now that he got off the bus to go get this thing, which is literally, a few hundred yards from the back of the bus. It's not very far at all, and there's nowhere to go. So then it starts to get like an eerie feeling. And so we all hop off the bus. We're all shouting the guy's name. And nothing. So we do this for about 10 minutes, all walking around. And then we walk back over that little trestle bridge, over the little bit of water. And we're like, shit, maybe he had a heart attack and like fell in and sunk, because there's literally nowhere to go out there. And we're screaming at the top of our lungs because we're scared, because it's odd. It's really odd. So Pete and I, we hop in the water. It's up to like our waist and shit. And we're feeling around for this guy in the middle of the night, to no avail. Everybody's shouting and calling, walking around. Obviously, we make our way back into the radio station, let the guy know that we're missing a guy, and that we have no idea what happened. And he comes out and sees where the bus is. It's still parked in its original spot from where we let our drummer off at. And he can't understand how somebody could go missing from there to the radio station. We continue to look for probably another half hour, to no avail, and then we have to call the cops because we start this feeling starts to set in that something really bad has happened, and it's just a gut feeling, So the cops come, and they come in 2 different cars. Now the crew that we have with us is the drummer. Well, the drummer's missing, but the folks that we were touring with before somebody went missing was the drummer, a bass player, Pete, a road manager, and these 2 cats called the Weiner Brothers. Now these are 2 guys that Pete played basketball with at the YMCA in Burbank, and they were aspiring filmmakers. Pete somehow talked them into making a documentary of this first tour. So they were there that night, documenting and recording while we were looking for our lost drummer. Anyway, these 2 cop cars show up. And the cops at first, were real suspicious of us and thought that maybe we had done something to them. Once we finally explained to them that that's not what happened at all, and we explained the situation to them, they started to get a little spooked, which was weird, and we thought it was weird. So they went and did a whole search of the area. There's about 4 cops. So we start getting further and further out in this field. You know, we break off into small groups. You know, a couple of guys go with one cop, a couple of guys go with another cop, two of the cops stay together, the whole thing. So we're walking with this one cop, and his other, I guess the cop that he showed up with, he comes and gets into our little group. So it's me and Pete and these two cops and maybe the road manager, maybe this guy named Bo Meek. So we're all walking and we come upon this little shed out in this field. Now this is like something out of a horror movie, this little shed. I mean, it's just got like this one, you know, sort of doll, you know, light bulb hanging from like the ceiling, and it's really ratty looking, and it's sort of a lot of scrub brush and stuff around it, and it's a little bit of ways. Like we had walked out into this field away from the radio station, just trying to find anything, you know, see if he'd like passed out in the field, like I don't know. You know, we were just open for any option at this point. And so as we come up on this building, the cops get spooked for whatever reason. Not by us, but just their senses were up for something. And they both pulled out their guns. They both pulled out their firearms. We get up to this building. Again, they have their firearms drawn. And we're like, holy shit, what's going to happen? Like maybe like somebody like abducted our drummer and now is like sawing him in half or something. You know, who the hell knows what's going on? It is East Texas, by the way. So, you know, the cops knock on the door. Obviously, there's no answer. There's no movement inside. And nothing happens. The cops don't go in. They don't kick the door in or anything like that. I guess they can't legally. I don't know. They reholster their guns. We walk around this little shack of a building. Find nothing doing, though the light's on for whatever reason. And they're like, all right, well, let's go back to the car, and they're going to make some more calls from it. So they're chatting to each other, you know, through their little walkie-talkie device that's on their shoulder. And we're all headed back now towards the car. And then as we're getting closer to the radio station and to the cop cars that are parked there, they're parked like, you know, like something's really happening. The lights are flashing, the whole bit, right? Out in the middle of this dark highway in East Texas. So we're like, man, we lost our guy. We lost our drummer, and I have no idea where he is or what happened to him, but like this kind of, obviously, we feel awful because we lost somebody on our watch. And now it also sort of throws the whole tour into question, and we just, you know, there's so many variables and so many unanswered questions, we just don't know what the hell's going on. So we're walking back to this set of cop cars, feeling this real low feeling. And then out of the darkness walks our drummer. Now he's dazed. He can't quite tell us a clear, coherent story of what happened to him. He mumbles something about being chased by dogs and having to hide in some sort of cornfield. Now, there's none of this shit out there. There's no cornfield. We didn't hear any dogs. I mean, we were in such a tight area that we would have heard dogs barking or something like that. So there was no real sense or rhyme or reason to his story. So me and Pete are looking at each other like, Jesus Christ, is this guy off his meds or something like that? You know, like, do we have to worry about this guy? So we get back on the bus. The cops question this guy a little bit, but they're sort of dumbfounded as to what happened and just said, all right, whatever, at least he's returned, and they got the hell out of there. And we were like, all right, we got to get on the road. So we all pile back on the bus. We give the drummer the back room in the bus is kind of like a bedroom suite kind of thing. So we give it to him just because there's a door on there and we're all kind of uneasy with him now. Like, we don't know what the hell's going on with him. So we're sitting up there and we're all trying to figure out what we really think happened. And Pete's like, man, you got to go back there and talk to him and see if he's okay. So I go back there and he's like, he's got that stare, you know, like that stare like when something's happened to you and you just sort of stare through things, you know? And I'm trying to talk to him and trying to get a better idea of what really happened to him and tell him, like, man, we don't, you know, we were out there. We were out there and we didn't hear any dogs, and there's this field that you're talking about. None of us saw any kind of, like, field with, you know, corn where you could hide. And I was just trying to get a better sense of what, you know, maybe, I don't know. It was so fucking weird. And I'd never dealt with anything like this before. And he seemed so out of it and so freaked out. And yet at the same time, like, what are you talking about? What? Nothing happened. You know, that kind of thing. And it was so bizarre. So, needless to say, we never really got the bottom of what happened. We were happy to have him back. He seemed to bounce back after the next day. You know, when we did the next show, he was the same old guy. But we were all like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? You know, like, what happened to him? Like, was he, you know, abducted by aliens for a few minutes or what? You know, we just didn't know. And it was so bizarre and it was so real. Like, it wasn't just us being idiots, like, you know, making shit up out in the woods. I mean, this guy was missing. The cops were there, and the cops felt something was off, you know? So, we finished out the rest of the tour, and it was fine, and then once we got back, I think, Pete had, that had definitely left a bad taste in Pete's mouth, and it certainly made me question this guy. Not his ability, but just his... Just question what the hell happened, you know what I mean? And is that shit likely to happen again? And then I think shortly after we let him go. And when I let him go, I brought up his strange disappearance. And he didn't completely deny that he went missing, but he acted like if it was only for about 5 minutes that he couldn't be found. So it was very bizarre, but I really want to try and get the perspective of the road manager and maybe a couple of other people who were in the bus with us and went through that whole experience. But it was very bizarre. Probably the most scary and bizarre thing that's happened to me on the road.
The White House paint is peeling bad. Cry from the wood sounded so sad. And there was leather boots on rotted wood, and a lone figure on the front porch stood, just standing there staring out at the rain. And he took a little trip back to memory lane. Take me back a one night, every Dixie Lord, he was behind the wheel of that faded red boat. Well, he was driving too fast with blood on his hands, saying over and over he had to make her stand, 'cause she can't be out running around that way. So he put her down, and that's where she stayed. sits up on blocks. He spends his time staring down the clock. He got no trial, did no jail. He buried in the woods and he left her there. But sometimes at night in the driving rain, she takes him by the hand back to memory lane. Take me back to one hot night down in Dixie Lord, and he was behind the wheel of that faded boat. Well, he was driving too fast with blood on his hands, and over and over he had to make her stand. She can't be out running around that way, so he put her down, and that's where she stayed. In the street called Memory Lane, it's mine with abandoned houses and shame, and I don't think his hands are ever gonna come clean.
All right, folks. Well, I eventually did make it to Brooklyn and did eventually talk to that guy about the White Falcon, and we were able to do some trading, and it all worked out, and now I am the proud owner of a White Falcon. All right, here, let me read you some dates. Again, August 20th, we are going to be at Randy Now's Man Cave. That's an 8 p.m. start in Bordentown, New Jersey. August 27th, we are at the second annual Philadelphia Country Music Festival. It's an all-day deal, and we're still waiting for a time slot, so keep posted to the schedule for that. September 1st, we are at the Twisted Tail in Philly. That's an 8 p.m. start. Then on September 9th, we're at one of my favorite local restaurants, a joint called Mama Rosa's here in Hamilton, New Jersey. It's an 8 p.m. start, so come out for that. Then September 15th, we're at Camp Jam in the Pines. I believe it's a 7 p.m. start, and that's in Hamilton, New Jersey. September 25th, we're at a joint called Lagosta Lounge for their Sunday brunch. That's Sunday, 1 p.m. start, Asbury Park, New Jersey. And then on October 8th, we are at the CJ Beer Fest in Mercer County Park at the Mercer County Amphitheater. So that's an all-day event as well, so come on out and enjoy some live, local, and original music. All right, be cool. Talk to you next time. Later.